The discovery that changed everything, Dr. Elena Vasquez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed away millennia of dust from the crystalline artifact. The alien ruins on Kepler 442b had been yielding secrets for 3 months now, but this particular chamber held something different, something that made her skin crawl with excitement and worry in equal measure. "Captain Torres, you need to see this," she called through her unit, her voice echoing in the vast underground complex. The walls around her pulsed with a faint, bioluminescent glow, typical of the long-dead predecessor civilization they'd been studying. Captain Marcus Torres arrived within minutes, his boots clanking against the metal walkways the research team had installed. A career military man turned research station commander, he had the kind of practical mindset that Elena appreciated. No nonsense, no panic, just steady competence. "What have you found, Doc?" Torres asked, crouching beside her excavation site. His weathered face showed the curiosity that had made him volunteer for this remote posting in the first place. Elena pointed to the newly uncovered wall panel, where complex diagrams and equations seemed to dance in the alien script. "These aren't just historical records, Marcus. These are technical specifications, weapon designs." She traced her finger along what looked suspiciously like a barrel schematic. "Electromagnetic acceleration systems, magnetic field manipulation, power coupling arrays." Torres frowned, studying the alien symbols. He'd picked up enough of the predecessor language over the months to recognize basic concepts. "Are you saying these are blueprints for some kind of gun?" "Not just any gun," Elena whispered. "These are designs for electromagnetic mass drivers. Railguns, Marcus. The predecessors built railguns 50,000 years ago." Before Torres could respond, the station's proximity alarms began to chime. Both humans looked up as their portable displays lit up with an incoming transmission. The face that appeared on screen was unlike anything either had seen before, crystalline. Features that seemed to shift between transparency and opacity, with eyes like fractured diamonds. "Greetings, humans of Kepler Research Station." The being spoke in surprisingly clear English, though with an odd harmonic undertone. "I am Zixthara, xenarchaeologist of the Helix Confederation. We have been monitoring your excavation activities and request permission to conduct joint research." Elena and Torres exchanged glances. First contact protocols were clear, but they'd never expected to implement them at an archaeological dig. Torres stepped forward. "This is Captain Torres, Station Commander. We welcome peaceful contact. May I ask what brings the Helix Confederation to this remote location?" Zixthara's crystalline features brightened. "The ruins you are studying belong to our ancestors' contemporaries. We call them the First Builders. Their technology has been lost for millennia, and we hope to recover some of their knowledge." The alien paused, head tilting in what might have been curiosity. "We detected unusual electromagnetic signatures from your equipment. Your scanning methods are quite sophisticated for such a young species." Elena couldn't help but smile. "We try to use the best tools available. Our electromagnetic resonance scanners are pretty standard issue for archaeological work." She gestured to her equipment array. "Though I suppose they might seem advanced to species that haven't developed similar technology." The silence that followed was longer than comfortable. Zixthara's features seemed to dim and brighten repeatedly, like a computer processing unexpected data. Finally, the alien spoke again, but with a different tone entirely. "Forgive me, but did you say electromagnetic resonance scanners are standard for your species?" There was something almost shocked in the harmonic undertones. Torres shrugged. "Sure, Elena's got the latest model, but even our lunar colleges have basic versions." "Why? Is that unusual?" Zixthara's image flickered as if the transmission was unstable. "Captain Torres, Dr. Vasquez, I must ask you directly. Does your species possess electromagnetic weapon technology? Elena and Torres looked at each other again. It seemed like an odd question, but there was no reason to hide basic military facts. Of course, Torres replied. Railguns have been standard naval armament for decades. We've got everything from shipboard artillery to personal defense variants. The aliens' features went completely transparent for several seconds. When they solidified again, Zixthara's voice carried an edge of disbelief. You possess functional electromagnetic mass acceleration weapons? Operational railgun technology? Well, yeah, Elena said, confused by the alien's reaction. The first working prototypes were developed back in the early 21st century. Earth's been refining the technology for over 100 years now. We've got orbital defense platforms, ship-mounted systems, even atmospheric defense grids. She paused, studying the alien's shocked expression. Is there something wrong with that? Zixthara was silent for nearly a full minute. When the alien finally spoke, it was barely above a whisper. The first builders' electromagnetic weapons were considered the pinnacle of impossible engineering. The Helix Confederation has studied their designs for 3,000 years without achieving a functional prototype. The power requirements, the magnetic field stability, the materials science involved, it was deemed beyond the reach of any known civilization. Torres felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying these weapons were considered impossible to build? Not impossible, Zixthara corrected, but requiring technology that should take a species tens of thousands of years to develop. Gravitic, field manipulators, quantum-level magnetic field control, exotic matter production capabilities. The alien's voice grew more strained, yet you speak of them as if they are common tools. Elena realized what was happening. She pulled up her tablet and accessed the research station's technical database. Zixthara, I'm sending you some basic specifications for human railgun technology. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. The data transfer took only seconds, but Zixthara's response took much longer. The alien's features cycled through what Elena was beginning to recognize as extreme agitation. Dr. Vasquez, these specifications show electromagnetic weapons with muzzle velocities exceeding 7 kilometers per second. The power systems described use chemical supercapacitors and conventional nuclear reactors. The materials are standard. Metal alloys. That's right, Elena confirmed. Pretty standard stuff. The Mark 7 naval railguns can push a tungsten slug at nearly 10 kilometers per second with proper power cycling. Zixthara's image flickered again. This is impossible. The power-to-weight ratios, the magnetic field coherence, the thermal management. Your species has solved engineering problems that have stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy for millennia. And you did it with primitive materials and conventional power sources. Torres was beginning to understand the implications. Zixthara, exactly how advanced is your Confederation's technology compared to other galactic civilizations? The Helix Confederation is considered one of the most technologically sophisticated civilizations in known space. The alien replied, Our energy weapons, gravity manipulation systems, and faster-than-light drives are the envy of lesser species. There was a pause. Yet we cannot build functional electromagnetic mass drivers. Elena sat back, her mind racing. So you're telling us that we've independently developed weapons technology that the rest of the galaxy considers impossible? Not impossible, Zixthara corrected again, but requiring technological prerequisites that your species should not possess for another 10,000 years at minimum. The alien's features had settled into what might have been resignation. I must contact the Confederation Council immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about human technological development. Before either human could respond, the station's long-range sensors began broadcasting urgent alerts. Torres rushed to the main display console, his face paling. As he read the incoming data, "Elena, we've got 15 unknown vessels dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. They're big, and they're headed this way." Zixthara's image sharpened with alarm. "That will be the Confederation response fleet. They monitor all first contact situations, especially those involving potential technological threats." The alien paused, features cycling through what Elena was learning to recognize as anxiety. "Captain Torres, Dr. Vasquez, I fear my report about your railgun capabilities may have triggered a much larger response than intended." Elena felt her stomach drop. "Are they coming to fight us?" "Not to fight, precisely," Zixthara replied carefully. "But the Confederation takes the appearance of impossible weapons technology very seriously. They will want to understand how your species achieved what we could not." The alien's voice took on an urgent tone. "I strongly suggest you contact your military authorities. The fleet commander will want to see demonstrations of your electromagnetic weapons capabilities." Torres was already activating the emergency communication protocols. "Elena, pack up everything. We need to get this information to Earth Defense Command immediately." He turned back to Zixthara's image. "How long do we have before your fleet arrives?" As Zixthara's transmission ended, and the alien's ship began moving toward the station, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to discover they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, including themselves. Asterisk when primitives aren't so primitive. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the Combat Information Center of the TDS Determination, humanity's most advanced defense cruiser, watching the tactical display with professional calm. The Helix Confederation fleet had arrived exactly when their xenorchaeologist had predicted. 15 massive vessels that dwarfed anything in humanity's current arsenal. But size, as her grandmother used to say, wasn't everything. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the lead Confederation vessel," reported Lieutenant Commander Park, her communications officer. "They're requesting immediate demonstration of our electromagnetic weapons capabilities." Chun nodded. She'd spent the past 6 hours reviewing every piece of intelligence Earth had on railgun technology, consulting with her best engineers, and preparing for what might be humanity's most important military demonstration ever. "Put them through." Park. Full diplomatic protocols. The main screen flickered to life, revealing an imposing alien figure that looked like a cross between a mantis and a crystal formation. Kethvar, the Confederation fleet commander, studied the human bridge with eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Admiral Chun of the Terran Defense Service, I am Fleet Commander Kethvar of the Helix Confederation. We have received disturbing reports about your species' technological capabilities." The alien's head tilted in what might have been skepticism. "Our xenorchaeologist claims your people possess functional electromagnetic mass acceleration weapons. This seems highly improbable for a species that has barely achieved interstellar travel." Chun felt a smile tug at the corner of her mouth. "Fleet Commander Kethvar, I appreciate your directness. We're prepared to demonstrate our railgun technology, but I'd like to understand why this particular weapon system is causing such concern among your people." Kethvar's features hardened into what Chun was beginning to recognize as alien frustration. "Admiral, electromagnetic mass drivers require technological sophistication that should be beyond your species for millennia. The power management systems alone require quantum-level engineering that we have yet to master." The alien paused. "If your species truly possesses such weapons, it would fundamentally alter our understanding of technological development patterns." Dr. James Wright, Chun's chief weapons engineer, stepped forward. A slight man with graying hair and oil-stained coveralls, he looked nothing like the military officers surrounding him. "Fleet Commander, if I may ask, what specific technical challenges have prevented your civilization from building functional railguns?" Kethver's attention focused on Wright with laser intensity. The primary obstacles are power density limitations, magnetic field coherence decay, and thermal management cascades. The energy requirements for useful muzzle velocities exceed conventional power generation capabilities by several orders of magnitude. Wright nodded thoughtfully. I see the problem. You've been approaching it as an energy density challenge instead of a power cycling solution. He pulled up a holographic display showing the basic schematic of a human railgun. We solved the power issue by using rapid capacitor discharge systems combined with magnetic field pulse shaping. Instead of trying to maintain constant field strength, we create controlled collapse patterns that actually amplify the acceleration effect. The alien fleet commander stared at the display for several long moments. You use capacitor banks and pulsed magnetic fields? It should create catastrophic field interference and thermal overload. It would, Wright agreed cheerfully, if we hadn't figured out the cooling and timing systems. See, the trick is managing the heat through controlled field collapse and using the magnetic pulse timing that actually help with thermal distribution. He adjusted the display to show power flow patterns. Plus, we use the recoil energy for capacitor recharge cycling. Makes the whole system much more efficient. Kethvar was silent for nearly a minute. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a note of disbelief. Dr. Wright, you are describing engineering solutions that our greatest minds have theoretical models for but considered practically impossible to implement. Admiral Chun decided it was time for the demonstration. Fleet. Commander, actions speak louder than theories. We've prepared a controlled test firing for your observation. She turned to her weapons officer. Commander Rodriguez, bring the MKX Railgun online. Standard test configuration. The Determination's main gun was a massive construction that ran nearly half the length of the ship. As it powered up, electromagnetic field generators hummed to life, capacitor banks charged with building lines, and cooling systems activated with rushing sounds that could be felt through the deck plating. On the Confederation ships, every sensor array turned toward the human vessel. Kethver watched his displays with growing amazement as energy patterns appeared that his technology could detect but not replicate. Admiral Chun, our sensors are registering power buildups consistent with theoretical railgun activation. The magnetic field coherence patterns are unlike anything in our databases. Target locked, reported Rodriguez. Firing solution calculated. For the designated asteroid, all systems green. Chun nodded. Fire when ready, Commander. The railgun discharged with a sound like controlled thunder. A tungsten slug weighing 50 kilograms accelerated down the barrel at over 8 kilometers per second, exiting the muzzle in a brief flare of ionized particles. 18 seconds later, the target asteroid, a rock nearly 2 kilometers across, exploded into fragments as the projectile delivered its kinetic energy. The silence on both bridges stretched for several minutes. Finally, Kethver spoke, his voice subdued. Admiral Chun, that projectile achieved muzzle velocity exceeding our most optimistic theoretical maximums. The power management, the magnetic field stability, the thermal control. It should not be possible with your technology base. Dr. Wright grinned. Fleet Commander, that was just our standard naval gun. We've got specialized versions that can do much better. He pulled up another schematic. The orbital defense platform's back home mount on K-12 systems that can push depleted uranium slugs at over 12 kilometers per second. And our new experimental models are hitting 15. Cath 4. Features went through rapid changes that Admiral Chun was learning indicated extreme agitation. Dr. Wright, projectiles at those velocities would have effective ranges measured in light minutes. A single shot could disable a starship from beyond sensor range of most civilizations. That's the idea, Chun replied calmly. Fleet Commander. I'm beginning to understand that humanity may have developed along different technological paths than other species. We've always been good at making things work, even when we don't fully understand the theory behind them. Lieutenant Commander. Park spoke up from his station. Admiral, we're receiving additional transmissions from the Confederation fleet. Multiple requests for technical specifications, theory papers, and engineering consultations. Kethver's image flickered as he apparently consulted with his own staff. When he returned his attention to the human bridge, his posture had changed. Noticeably. Admiral Chun, I must be frank with you. The Helix Confederation has spent centuries attempting to develop electromagnetic weapons technology. We have theoretical frameworks, advanced materials, exotic power sources, and computational models that can simulate every aspect of railgun operation. Yet we have never achieved a functional prototype. Dr. Wright looked genuinely puzzled. But, Fleet Commander, the basic principles are straightforward. Electromagnetic induction, magnetic field manipulation, power cycling. These are fundamental physics concepts. Any industrial civilization should be able to build basic versions. That is precisely what makes this so remarkable, Kethvar replied. Your species has achieved practical implementation of technology that we considered theoretically possible, but practically unattainable. And you did it with what we would consider primitive materials and conventional power sources. Admiral, Chun felt the pieces falling into place. Fleet Commander, I think we need to have a longer conversation. It seems humanity might have something valuable to offer the galactic community after all. Zixthara's voice came through on a separate channel. Admiral Chun, if I may interrupt, the Confederation Council has authorized me to begin formal technology. Exchange negotiations. Your railgun specifications alone could advance our military capabilities by centuries. Chun looked around her bridge, seeing the faces of her crew, engineers, tacticians, and warriors who had grown up thinking humanity was alone in the universe, and probably inferior to any aliens they might meet. Instead, they just discovered that human ingenuity and stubborn problem-solving had achieved something the galaxy's greatest civilizations considered impossible. Asterisk. Fleet Commander Kethvar, Xenarchaeologist Zixthara, Chun said formally. The Terran Defense Service and the governments of Earth would be honored to begin formal diplomatic and technical exchanges with the Helix Confederation. She paused, allowing herself a small smile. Though I suspect you'll find that railguns are just the beginning of what humanity has built while we were waiting to meet our neighbors. As the human and alien fleets began coordinating joint operations, and the first formal technology exchange protocols in human history, Dr. Wright was already discussing power management techniques with fascinated Confederation engineers. Admiral Chun watched the proceedings with satisfaction, knowing that humanity had just proven they belonged on the galactic stage, not as primitives seeking help, but as equals bringing their own unique strengths to the community of worlds. The archaeological dig that had started it all continued in the ruins below, but now with combined human and alien research teams working together. The ancient weapon blueprints that had seemed so advanced were now being compared with modern human engineering, and the results were teaching both species new possibilities. Humanity had built railguns not because they were trying to impress anyone, but because they had problems to solve and refused to accept that something couldn't be done. That stubborn refusal to acknowledge limitations, it turned out, was exactly what the galaxy had been waiting for. Asterisk.